Silly me. Here I thought that Alina and Malian were developing a love story, and here comes creepy ass Kirigan in for the cockblock. Welcome to That's a Wrap, the channel where I review TV shows, movies, and movie trailers. Today's TV show that I will be reviewing is episode 4 for the Netflix original series, Shadow and Bone. If you're not familiar with this series or not caught up, consider this your spoiler warning. So let's get on to the review. This episode was a bit interesting for me. It was, if I could say, a love-hate relationship, or that's how I could best describe it. They had its good moments. It also had its bad moments, but what show doesn't? It reminded me very heavily of, I guess maybe just because of the way the elk was, or deer or steer, whatever it is, with all those freaky horns, which don't get me even started as how it could even, how it's still alive, if it really is alive and not a figment of the imagination, but how more or less it has his head being able to walk around, because those horns seem really heavy, and how he turns his head just doesn't match up with just the weight that could have. But you know, here I am nitpicking again. So I left off episode 3 with high hopes of a love story. It was one of the last things, a good part of that episode, that I ended in saying, hey, you know, I'm hoping that this love story between Alina and Malian, it seems to be picking up. It seems to be that's the direction. And then I watched this episode, and right off the bat, within I guess the first 10 minutes, General, Kirigan is already giving her a black dress, and I was like, uh-oh. And then they go off and ride together, and I was like, uh-oh. And then they go off to this wishing well, and I was like, oh, here it is. But then my expectations were a little bit subverted, and I was like, whew, we dodged the bullet there. But then later on in the episode, when she can't sleep, why she went into his room, like, oh, is this a currents map and whatever, and then he's getting all crazy because his fellow whatever countrymen are dying in this war, and he gets all emotional. So she goes and touches his hand, and boom, here comes the sun again, or the light. And she goes, oh, because he said, oh, I'm all alone. I'm fighting this war alone. And then she goes and looks right into his eyes, and she goes, you're not alone. And then he grabs her by the head, and all you girls know, when a guy grabs you like that in your head, he's going in for the kiss. And I was like, no! And I started freaking out. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And maybe it grossed me out a little bit, because it did gross me out a little bit. Now, I don't care, love knows no age limit, I guess. If Madonna, that is like 80 years old, could have a 27-year-old boyfriend, and if millionaires could be like in their 80s and have a 27-year-old girlfriend, you know what? It is what it is. It is what it is, right? But she looks really, really young. And yeah, she's a pretty girl. She's a pretty young girl, and maybe it's just me going up in age, but he seems like he's in his 40s and stuff like that, in at least the way I saw, maybe in his middle 30s or whatnot. And again, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I know that age difference shouldn't matter, but she looks like she's like 15, 16 or 17 at the most. So maybe I'm coming at this from a father's perspective, and that's the reason why I was like, no, what's going on here? What am I watching? But when, I don't know, my hopes of having Malian and Alina being the love story that we're seeing seems to be going off the tracks in this episode. I'm hoping that this is just to cause the kind of reaction that I had for it, because yeah, I don't want to see Alina and Kirigan end up together. I don't care what their relationship is, can be, or will be, or whatnot. So moving on from that disgusting imagery that I just had in my head. I thought the music selection again for this episode was right on, whether it was the scene that I just described or the montage where she's learning to hone in her powers, or the sad part where Malian's homies die. And that was such a good scene, even though he lost his two best friends, and the music in that scene was so perfect, so impactful. And when he's we hear the dialogue where he's talking about that Alina is Malian's true north, or Mal as she calls him. That she goes, oh, I taught you the true north and the northern star, and you're my true north. Basically saying to himself how much he loves and realizes that it's more than just a brotherly, sisterly, best friend kind of love. And he sees that steer, the mythical steer that he was charged to get. And when he basically tells his two dead friends, like, I'm sorry, like, that was such a well acted scene by him. It was a very impactful scene for all of us to watch. I didn't see that coming, even though I should have seen it coming. But I didn't think he was going to lose both of them and be, basically on his own, even though that was his initial strategy, was to go and find this steer by himself. But because his two best friends were there protecting him and watching out for him, they died. And I know we all want to be like, oh, they're there for Mal, but the dude had a girl back home, when he lets him smell the letter and stuff. I think it was even in this episode when he goes, smell, oh, it smells like glazed ham. And I think there's a hidden joke there that's too adult for most viewers and listeners. But it sucks, right? He left his girl back there, and I know casualties of war and all that, blah blah blah, but I always hate when they do that they just disregard the secondary characters because plot has to happen, I guess. So it kind of sucked, but it was very impactful. And again, going back to the music, the score in this episode and throughout this whole series, honestly, has been so spot on. And Inag, Kaz, and Jesper, they crossed the fold. I think I was calling it the void in the last two reviews, but they got through the fold, but they still can't get they don't know how to get that ticket, how to get into the castle. And I thought that them kind of becoming circus acts to be able to get into the castle, I guess. I don't know. That seemed very weak as far as the screenplay or the writers, the script. It seemed like a very convenient cop out. I would have liked to have it a little bit more elaborate. I mean, Ignag, or however you pronounce that, she is so skilled. Like, you're telling me she can't find a way in, even though I know it's heavily guarded and blah, blah, blah. But Kaz has shown us to be a mastermind, and Ineg has shown us to be like Batman in that universe. The muscle Jesper, as far as with his, Billy the Kid guns that he has. I think all three of them could have found something that was more along the lines of their characteristics. It seems for the first three episodes, they were telling us a certain aspect of them, and then they deviated from that and almost gave us like something out of left field that, hey, this is the way this is how they're gonna get in the castle, even though for the first three episodes they've been quick-witted, they've been determined, they've overcome obstacles. For them just to go into the fold, come out of the fold, and be like, well, we're gonna now do it, we're gonna become circus acts. I mean, you're putting yourself front and center. And I don't know if anybody knows how to do heist or anything. I'm not talking to, like, if I'm a criminal, I know what I'm talking about, but I would assume that you would want the least amount of attention on you to go under the radar. And you see that in other movies, whether they're in there to get information, they don't go and start grabbing the mic and become the center of attention and then everyone remembers your face. You kind of just blend in, keep it cool, kind of watch what the exits are, where the doors, where the main people are going in and out of, and then you make your move. You get the information, get the fuck out. When you got your information, then you don't care whether you're the center of attention because you got what you wanted. Then you can start killing everybody, blowing shit up and doing what you got to do. So I don't understand that plan, how it's going to work. But maybe Kaz, since he's not going to be front and center, but his little freaking limp with his cane, maybe it's for show, even though I don't think it's for show. I don't understand how he is all of a sudden would be the ace in the sleeves, if you will. So we got introduced to a new character in this episode. I thought she acted really good. Nina, I think is the name of her, or Nina. I don't know how they pronounce it in the show, but she's basically like we saw her with her charm. She's a beautiful young lady. But with her charm, she's almost able to persuade you to do, what she wants. And I don't know if many of you remember the movie Push, where the girl could push ideas into your head. It seems that's the same power that she has. And I thought her acting was great. She was in very limited scenes. She was going to help Kaz and Neg and Jesper, ultimately be the ticket into the castle, but she was kidnapped right before, they got their, convenient little plot device there, which I'm assuming is going to come into fruition in the later episodes, or she's going to become more important in the later episodes. I hope she's just not a one-off where she's just introduced to fill time. But I enjoyed her character, and there seems to be something with her captor too. Maybe there's a story there that's developing. So I can't wait to see where that story ultimately goes. But yeah, again, this episode is just getting better. I mean, this series is getting better and better and better with every episode. And I can't wait to watch episode 5. Now, some of you are thinking, well, why are you doing, episode by episode if you could just binge watch the whole thing and just do a broad review over the whole series? And I will do that eventually when I'm done with it. But I enjoy doing it this way, kind of shorter videos. I know I could go for a while just talking. So just having more shorter videos, condensed videos, more or less focusing, not breaking down the episode, because I don't. There's many channels that break down the every scene and go scene by scene as far as what they do, and I do that sometimes. It just depends what kind of mood I guess I am in breaking down these shows. But I want to be genuinely surprised when I see them. I want to have a blank slate and look at them and not go and watch all of them and then have convoluted minds and forget plots, because it seems that if I do binge watch this, one episode on top of another one, I might lose my place. And, this show is good enough where I think it deserves to have its individual episodes reviewed. And this is just an overall review of what I thought about this series. So yeah, again, I'm completely enjoying it. Let me know what you guys think about this episode 4. Did you guys enjoy it? What was your favorite part of this episode? There was a few for me, like I said. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments. And like always, that's a wrap.